let's talk to the people that don't know about what you do. And the best way I can describe it is you are documenting your father has Alzheimer's and you're documenting that through TikTok and through the video. Tell me how it started.
Matt, it started during COVID before I even took my dad in. And I just started documenting my life, through the quarantine with my wife. And then I got into the app a little bit, watching videos. And then as my dad moved in, he naturally moved into my content. Because I just film my life. I don't really, people think I film my dad. I just film my everyday life. And it just, since then, my dad's become more and more a part of my life. Back then I had him half time, and he was more mobile. He was, we could get out more, and it's become, I have him full time, and it's much more of an ordeal. He's become much more of a part of my life. Hence, he's more of the videos. But the way it started was just, we go on a walk and I'd take out my camera, and they were fairly normal videos. And my dad might be in them, he might not. And then we had I'd say call it a real life video, where it was different than all my other videos, because when you take your parent in, especially at the beginning, it can be very difficult. You learn, it's incredibly rewarding, but at the beginning there is a learning curve. And I'll tell you, I started at the bottom of that learning curve. I knew nothing about taking care of someone with dementia. I knew how to argue. I knew how to rationally speak with people and use common sense arguments and things like that, things that don't work with dementia. So it was kind of the opposite of everything I'd done. And this happened to be an incident, one of many, where he was trying to get in the car and drive off, and I had just lost it. I mean, I was just done. I got out. I'm out there. What the F are you doing, Dad? And he's all, I'm effing gonna go to the bank. We started, we're father and son, right? And you still have your old stuff. And I'm going, where's the bank? How are you going to get there? And he's like, well, I go out there, and you can see me, and then I'm just exacerbated, and you can see me, well, Dad, and then the video ends. And it was very different. It was contentious. It's just the kind of thing that people love to see. It's kind of like looking at a car wreck. And, for me, posting it was kind of cathartic, because, I'm dealing with that. It's real. I mean, that's not, and just the fact that I took the video camera out showed my, how I was feeling. This is what I'm dealing with at that point. And it became kind of an outlet for me. And then after that video hit, it went viral. And once something goes viral, you get, you're in the soup, right? And there's a million negative comments that Danielle and my kids, get that, take that video down. People are doing this, that, they're calling you, whatever. And my response was, I looked at the video and I said, you know what? I'm not taking that down, because that's real flipping life. I mean, that's nothing but my frustration. And if I'm feeling it, other people are feeling it. This is real life. There's no real reason to take that video down. It's unpleasant because the disease is unpleasant. And oftentimes caregiving is unpleasant. I mean, that's just a fact, right? So I left it up, and then kind of, responding to different comments, I would post more videos, and it kind of just developed from there. And then, the magic of my dad took over, and he just became, he caught people's eye, and people started to fall in love with him.
I mean, people just freaking love it. I mean, they love, where are my keys? And, there's lines from him. You said something before that I want to hit on, because I think it's really important for people that are dealing with this. Does it help you get through the hard part of dealing with your father not knowing what's going on? And is it one of those things that it's like, you know what, you've taken it in because it does help you get through it?
Social media and the process of video has helped us in more than one way, not just getting through the moment, but like you said, you can reflect. I can look back and go, oh, that clearly was not the way to handle it, which is, you can find that in every interaction. There's imperfections in every interaction. And certainly I do learn from my videos, and sometimes commenters will point things out that I didn't see. And I've learned a lot from the response from people. But to directly answer your question, does it help me get through the moment? Yes, and again, in multiple ways. One of them is that one of the the most difficult parts of caregiving is the redundancy.
Yeah.
It's like you kind of imagine you're working a crossword puzzle or writing a legal brief or whatever it is you're doing, and somebody's walking in literally every 45 seconds, every minute and a half. Right? You're gonna your patience is going to wane very fast. And so what I can do is, I can kind of take a video out and say, I'm gonna concentrate on making the video and show other people. And in that moment, it relieves that stress. And all of a sudden, I'm now a videographer, right? And now I'm doing my job. I'm saying, hey, this is kind of what it's like when you're trying to get something done and someone's coming in 45 times, an hour. It's difficult. So 100% it can help you get through the moment. And then it continues to help with the other things we just talked about: reflection, comments, feedback, those kinds of things. But
Let's talk
yeah,
about, obviously people have tried to take the accounts, make their own accounts, whatever. Let's give out your real account and your real YouTube page for anybody that wants to see it.
well, sure. I have one TikTok account. I have two dogs. Go outside. I have one TikTok account. It's DSal NorCal, DSALNORCAL. And that's my only TikTok account. My wife has a couple, and they're basically Mrs. DSal NorCal. So put a Mrs. in front of it, and then Mrs. DSal NorCal 2 and 3. And those are her, she's her 3 because she does her little lives or what have you. And then on YouTube, it's the same thing, DSal NorCal on 1434. But if you look up Dan Salinger on YouTube, you'll get to me, DSal NorCal. And Instagram, it's the same thing.
So one of the
Yeah.
things that, I do some, I'm sorry, I do some, videos here and there. I do a one for the station each day. And when I don't do it, I'm kind of like, well, I don't know how much people really like these. And consistency is really important. Do you find yourself like pressuring yourself to get something out every single day?
That is a great question. And you obviously are a content creator. You gave yourself away. There is certainly, he's up, by the way. So if you see someone walk, my wife is running down to take care of it. And the man is up, the famous man himself. Yes, there is pressure, and that pressure has grown because it's not just getting a video out there. But for me at this point, I don't want to put just I don't want to put the camera on him, eating his breakfast. How are you doing today, Dad? I'm fine. How are you? I want to, tell stories with the videos or provide something that is at least of a decent quality, rather than just, it's easy to just, take a camera out, but what's the point of that? So it's difficult for me to find quality videos. Sometimes I just won't post, and that's what I've come to. If I don't have something that I'm comfortable posting that I think tells a story, I just simply won't post it. Maybe I'll write a poem or I'll just do a talk on my own, which I've done a lot. I'm looking to edit a video from the material I have, and this is not going to make a good video. And I don't want to, at least on my channel,
Yep.
my wife, she's different standards or criteria, but on my channel, I want them to be, I want them to be of a certain quality so that if you're if you're binging my page, each video is going to have a story in and of itself. So that can be a problem. And either if I don't have something, I either make it up myself. I'll do a talk on a walk, a poem, just a talk, whatever, or I just won't post that day.
By the way, he's 91.
What's that?
How old is he?
My dad's 91.
I mean, it's pretty amazing. Like, he's in really good shape in general. I mean, that's one thing that's really surprised me. I'm watching, and he has conversations with you, and he's walking and all. I mean, it's pretty impressive. It really is.
Well, I mean, that, and I attribute that not to just the fact he's with myself, but he's with family. He's in a comfortable environment. He's the only patient we have, right? He's not one of many. We watch his diet incredibly closely. We believe he has vascular dementia. And if you have something called vascular dementia and you take the proper medications and you prevent future strokes, mini strokes in your head from causing dementia, you can stabilize the person. And, for my dad, he typically, he deteriorates after trauma, like when we had a fall. I know that's he's going to have that's more strokes are popping up. But if I can avoid the physical falls, which are terrible, and feed him well, keep him emotionally, steady. I think he's not progressing as fast as I thought he would either. He's not progressing as fast as many of the other caregivers I'm watching on the channel, and we're thrilled about that. And that there's a lot of work, typically he's doing fine right now, but I'm telling you, Matt, all it takes is 1 second, one fall, and we're completely back at square one. We could be in the hospital, and at that point, I think you'd see a quicker deterioration. But we've been very lucky, and I try and be really, careful that he doesn't take a fall. It's bound to happen, but until that happens, I think he's going to be fairly stable.
DSal NorCal on TikTok. One of the best follows you'll do on TikTok. Oh, there he is. There he is. I want to ask you one more thing about what you're dealing with. Then I want to talk about the 49ers because I know you're a big fan. For the people one of the things that I really worry about is I've seen my dad cry a couple times in his life. One was when my grandfather had Parkinson's and he forgot his name and who he was talking to. And I'll never forget my dad telling me that. And I'm like, wait a minute, how can you talk to your dad and him not know who you are? How do you deal with something like that? And how can you help others? Because I think that's one of the hardest parts of this whole thing.
And I'll tell you, at this point, that simply does not bother me, because he is not, while he may not know who I am, he's always, he knows I'm family, right? He knows that I'm related. He knows that I'm safe. The video that I posted yesterday, I think I'm going to post one today. He has no idea who I am, but you can tell he knows I'm somebody. You're Mark. No, I'm not Mark, Dad. You're Bill. You're my brother. No, I'm not your brother. He knows that I'm somebody. And we have this, we have the conversation flow, and there's not, vacancy or terror in his eyes. And so I don't let that bother me. I know that's the disease. I know, sometimes he won't remember me, and then, I'll get something to eat, and he'll turn around and be all, thanks, Dan. It just comes back to him just immediately. So that part hasn't bothered me personally, but that's because I'm with him every day. I know he knows I'm safe. I know that it's going to come back. I know he's appreciative, but I will tell you, my brother Josh, who he doesn't see every day, if you watch the videos, he remembers him for sure. But when he sees Josh, he doesn't remember that's Josh. He looks at his kid sometimes, his 9-year-old, and thinks that's Josh. So while he knows who Josh is, he doesn't forget him. And I know that it has bothered. I've watched his face, and I know that it has bothered him. But it's not that he's forgotten that Josh exists. He just doesn't recognize the current Josh as Josh, because in his mind, he's a little kid.
Totally. So, all right, let's get down to the business here. The 49ers, you're a huge fan. My station right now is talking about it, the guys in the morning. And it's really interesting what I'm hearing right now. People are calling up and they're not like, yeah, we won. It was a weird game. Tell me your thoughts throughout the game. And are you excited, or are you like, oh,
I'm nervous as hell, because look, we've gone, when I grew up, you know who it was, man. It was Joe, it was Ronnie, it was Dwight, it was Eric, it was, Jerry, and it was Dwight. Dwight, and I mean the other Dwight, Hicks and Clark. I grew up with those guys, and we never lost. We knew we were going to win. Of course, we lost some games, but you knew you were going to win the big ones. I can bar the Giant game, Roger Craig. We knew we were going to win the big one every time. And so I grew up with these incredibly high expectations. By the way, I used to play basketball with those guys when I was a teenager. Most of those guys I just mentioned at the Royal Courts on Saratoga Avenue back in the day. But that's how I grew up. And so if we didn't win, it's a disappointment, And so when it came up, we went to the Super Bowl with Colin, and we came, and then we went back with Garoppolo and that close. And so I've been disappointed recently. So I'm terrified. I mean, it's funny during the game, I'm on my chat with my buddies from high school, by the way. I went to the same high school Mike Shanahan went to for 1 year too, by the way. He and I are both Saratoga Falcons.
Nice.
But we'll be talking on the phone, and literally, I'm so into it that sometimes I have to just turn the channel. I turn it off, right? And I'm telling my buddies, I can't watch. And that happened in the first quarter when the Packers were driving. I'm like, tell me what's going on. And so they're texting me, turn it back on, Sal, turn it back on. So we're up. I turn it back on. Then the Packers score. I turn it off. I can't. I really am into it. And then now that the outcomes that I wanted, I go back and I've watched it probably 3 times since the game.
Man, you must have been flipping that thing off a lot in that game. That was rough to watch.
It was rough. Now, in retrospect, Purdy has trouble throwing a wet ball. That the Niners have, real tight formations, and you have to make cuts. That field there, in Santa Clara is below sea level. I mean, it's got to be, tough for them. So, I think the Niners have trouble playing in those conditions. So I'm hoping that it's a real dry week. And then, of course, you don't have to worry about that in Vegas. But I'm worried, but I think, I think we can make it to the big game. And then I think it's going to be a tough, if we're playing Baltimore.
I think the Lions, they can get past either way. The Ravens, the Chiefs are vulnerable. The Ravens kind of scare me. Hey, this was awesome. Can't thank you enough. Keep doing what you're doing. I don't care what anybody says. You are helping people through this process. And to me, that's the most important part about social media is when you're helping people and they're living and seeing what you're going through. If they're going through that and it can help them, even if it's one person, you're doing great, man.
Thanks, Matt.